Hi, you are listening to the Princess Interrupted podcast. I'm your host, Allison Ziggy. I was just looking at some analytics from my podcast, and I was really curious to see that one of the most listened to episodes this month has been an episode that I actually recorded back in 2022, and it's called Misdiagnosed and Overmedicated. I find it interesting that this episode was getting so many views, and I decided to listen to it and see, okay, what did I even say in this? I was a little nervous. I was like, was I oversharing on the internet? Like, what the heck is this about? It's me just detailing and chronicling my medication journey. Very fidgety, so if you get distracted by background noise, just listen to it in 1.25 speed because the story's really good, and I don't know that I could deliver the same message and do it quite the justice that I did. It's just a very basically neutral account of my medication journey. But I just listened to the episode and it moved me in a way that I wasn't expecting. I know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I hear these things and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I was a little bit more passionate about advocating for mental health when I was in the thick of going through things. And it wasn't even that. It was more so when I created my brand, I knew that this was going to be a huge part of something that was important to me. And I started donating to mental health charities, and I would wear necklaces that said anxiety and all the different diagnoses that I had ADHD, anxiety, bipolar. The conversations surround, there's a cat that I'm watching who's like scratching ferociously right now. So we're just gonna allow that. That's the equivalent of the chair in the first episode rolling around. But just from listening to this episode, it really emotionally moved me to hear what I had experienced, because it's been 5 years since I've gone off medication at this point. I agree with everything that I said in the original episode. That's why, having been off of medication for 5 years, I'm not sure that I could necessarily speak on this as clearly and coherently as I did back then. But since then, I've also completely stopped drinking alcohol, which was a decision I made for my mental health as well, just because I would get anxiety after I would drink alcohol, and it was the only time I felt that way. And after having been on medication for so long, it felt like the one thing I could do to show myself love and make up for all the time that I spent chemically altered was to kind of take that away. It's just created an entirely new relationship to myself. And I think back to the version of myself who was doing the best she could. She was just so lost. And what really struck me about the episode was sometimes we can get lost in the cycle of thinking like, it's not working, 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 I'm not getting the results I want, it's not working, try harder. And I've been really working on releasing my worthiness wound, which comes from just this deep fear of not being good enough, this deep fear of people not listening to what I have to say, not feeling important, I just grew up feeling that way, and so naturally that was a fear that I had to work through, was like not feeling important or looking at myself and seeing the imperfections or judging myself instead of loving myself. And so it's been a new experience wiring a neural pathway to view myself through a perspective of self-love as opposed to one of self-hatred. You can only imagine the kinds of partners that you're calling into a life whenever you don't love yourself. And I share my story of learning to love myself was really my trip to Italy, was when it all started for me in 2021. But I actually believe it goes back further, and I think that my true self-love journey started when I did make the decision to go off of medication. And the fact that I did it for me. And then that love continued in the way that I knew that this was not just about me. I put aside the shame. And I'm so grateful that because of the pandemic, these conversations have become more normalized. But I wanted to open up a little bit more. I've been really thinking about therapy. And as a coach, don't view what I do as therapy at all. I think about it more so as belief work. I think about it more so as nervous system regulation. I think about it more as coaching and helping to extract your purpose out of you, extract the truth out of you, helping you to align with yourself and ideally either helping you call in a partner or align yourself through the purpose, the way that you're living in your life. Ideally both. I never want to discredit something that is working for someone. Like, that is the last thing I would ever want to do, is be like, Allison says that this isn't like as viable, so I don't want to do that. We all have different perspectives. We all have different things that work for us. And there were times in my life where I really needed and relied on a therapist to get me through. It was earlier on in my journey, and our experiences are all vastly different. I had been in a therapist's office from the time I was in first grade, child therapist. And my experience was pretty traumatizing because in therapy, what I would say would be used in the court against one of my parents. I had no way to know, like, the circumstances, but it felt like it wasn't safe to say my truth because whatever I said was going to hurt the people around me. And when I was little, I actually stopped talking because of this. I was so afraid to say the wrong thing and to hurt the people around me, and I had just experienced so much pain. The custody battle had raged on for years and years and years, and I internalized all this, and this was the origin of people pleasing and pacifying and not wanting to take up too much space, not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to make people uncomfortable, just making sure whatever I said was understood by everyone who was listening, never wanted to hurt anybody. And I went to college, and I have vivid memories. I was in therapy in college, which wasn't normal. I started going 2009 to 2013. And so I used to take the stairs to therapy so that nobody would see me getting off at the therapist's floor. And it was on the 5th floor. And I'll never forget that my best friend at the time was hanging flyers for part of the business fraternity that she was in. And she saw me sitting in the lobby waiting for my therapist. And I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed. This was someone who I considered to be my best friend. And the thought of her knowing that I was going to therapy rocked me. And it was something that I felt shame around for a really long time. It makes me laugh to think about that now, thinking about the depth of the relationships that I'm able to have now, as opposed to how I really tried to create this curated, perfect version of myself to be palatable and worthy of love. And the way it just pushed people away who really wanted to know the real me, because I wasn't willing to know the real me. I wasn't able to, because knowing the real me would have hurt people around me. It would have caused changes in the way I was showing up, but I wasn't ready to face that yet. I wasn't ready to become who I was meant to be. That sounds so cliche, but I wasn't ready to become bigger in my life. I just wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to keep things as they were. And when I moved to Chicago, the medication journey was a whole other thing, but the first therapist that really changed my life was the one that I met when I was in Chicago. And I loved her. I loved her so much. At the end of every session, it was so awkward because I didn't feel like I could touch her or give her a hug. But I loved her. I would just go every week and I would just cry, mainly about boys, my exes, like my life. I was just so sad. I had so much pain and so much sadness on my heart. And she left to move to Minnesota. I've been in Chicago, and this was way before you could meet with people virtually or anything. I had a standing meeting on my calendar every Wednesday at 11, and I would block it off on my calendar. Nobody at work knew where I was going. I would take my full makeup bag because I would be beet red by the end of the session. I was just crying so much in the sessions. And I would just do my makeup all up and act as if nothing happened and go back to work. It felt like that 1 hour each week was where I could finally open my steam vent and just be real. Where it felt like my whole life I was just masking, and it was like the 1 hour a week I could stop pretending that I was okay. And I would just cry and cry. And I remember when she was moving, we spent 6 months preparing for her to leave me. And it was so emotional to say goodbye to this person who had helped me so much. After that, life got really hard. One of my best friends died. She had been my roommate the year before, and she died of cancer. And I write about a situation that blew up in my book, if you're listening to my book, Princess Interrupted, but I just had this experience of getting my heart really broken. And this was in 2016 that I'm talking about. My heart was like really broken. And I didn't say anything about it, and I just kind of like, again, pacify, like make myself as small as possible, like I don't exist. And I tried to find another therapist, but the thought of starting over was so exhausting, and it was just so impossible to even begin explaining the pain that I was in. And I had worked with therapists then on and off over the past few years. No one had really touched my soul in the way that first one had from Minneapolis. But it wasn't until 2019 and I discovered manifestation, and I started actually getting excited for my future, even after everything that I write about in the book, the misdiagnosis, like going off the medication. I wasn't working with an active therapist through that. I did have therapists on and off for a few years. Like I had worked with one in New York, actually. I had the long-term one from like 2013 to 2016. And after that, it was like a few sessions here or there. And I had a therapist for a full year in New York until I quit my job. But when I discovered manifestation and I started looking at my life differently, that was when I was finally able to heal on a deeper level. Because I'd already intellectualized everything. It was like I could recite my family history so emotionally neutral because I wasn't able to go there on an intellectual level. Like the pain wasn't still intellectual. It was on like a body level or like a deep cellular level. There were obviously a lot of things that I was healing, but the fact that this was simultaneously going on with the medication journey, this was simultaneously going on with heartbreaks and navigating my relationship with alcohol and coming to terms with the fact that I was no longer happy in my tech career and I did want to make the big change, and I really just, my business was all that I thought about. It was like the one thing that I just loved it. I just wanted it to work so badly. And I just judged myself for how long it took, which is so silly because things that are worth building take time, and that's not an indicator of how viable an idea is. And rushing just delays, as we talk about with love all of the time. But yeah, I just have been on this crazy healing journey since I left my corporate tech job. I never want to trash therapy because it did really help me get to where I'm at. I also believe that when you mix these tools, you get the best results. I believe that everyone has their own unique experiences. I also don't view what I'm doing with clients as therapy at all. With subconscious work, you don't even really need to tell me the details of what's happening. It's more I'm helping to guide you through your changing of your beliefs. I'm guiding you through drawing your own conclusions. There are situations where we'll have sessions and I'll be asking you questions and helping to decipher what's happening internally. I see so many things online. There was this like reel that really triggered me because she was like, propaganda, I'm not falling for online life coaches. And I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes I get really triggered because I'm scared of the way that this is perceived, where people are like, oh my, like, I mean, being a life coach on the internet can kind of be like one of the cringiest things alive. And I look at like some of the limiting beliefs I have in myself. I had to work through so much of my money crap, like just why it was so easy for me to make money through my tech career, but I struggled so much when it came to my business. It was just a lot of worthiness things that had to come up. It was like I wasn't able to fake it. I had to heal the root cause of this. And I guess this all came up because I've been healing my worthiness wounds. I've been really thinking intentionally about the legacy I'm here to leave and what I want people to take away from my work and the impact that I want to make on their lives. And when I listened to that podcast episode of my medication journey, I just felt really reconnected to my mission. And I felt really reconnected to who I am here to be and the legacy I am going to leave behind. And my story is always going to be a huge part of the value that people can experience. I wanted to share my therapy journey because I'm like, yeah, therapy was a tool that I used, but I also believe that in order to get where I'm at, I had to use other tools in addition and at different times. And now the work that I've been doing, I've been primarily doing the work on myself, actually, like using my old tools. As I'll notice a belief comes up, I've actually gotten really good at when things happen in my life that don't feel good in my body, I'm able to either clear it from my nervous system or I'm able to use the trigger as evidence of where a limiting belief is lying on a deeper level. I've also kind of shifted out of this needing things to shift externally in order to feel a certain way and have instead just really started to embrace how can I invite more love into my life and how can I make my life more fun. Those are my main priorities. My priority is more so energetic alignment as opposed to pure output. I'm just not interested in doing things for the sake of doing them, which is really funny because I've recorded 3 podcast episodes in the last 2 days and I haven't even been trying. This one just felt really important to say. To just say, like, your story is going to be so valuable to someone else. And this isn't saying that you need to share before you're ready. But in my experience, as I've started to open up to the people in my world about things that I've faced that have been challenging, it's just been an invitation for them to receive me. What are you doing with... He kind of like attacks, so I don't want to like touch his, and he's so cute. So I've been... Hey, stop it. His name is Boggs. I've been pet sitting this little guy, but I've been traveling and watching cats, which has been like soul reviving. Honestly, leaving New York was really challenging. I was traveling for a while and then I was spending time with family. I was reading a book and it said, if you want to see how spiritually evolved you are, spend a week with your parents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, living with my mom has given me so much gratitude in so many ways, but it's also like shadow work on steroids, which is how I say relationships are. But I've also heard family described as like the black diamond of relationships. These people just know how to trigger all your like hot spots, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I look at the beauty and the growth and the way that I described my mental state when I moved in with my dad versus the way I feel about living with my mom now. And it has nothing to do with the difference between our relationships. It has everything to do with the difference between how I view the world and how I view my choices. And I was listening to my story and I'm like, wow, I kind of experienced something similar. I left my tech career in 2023. I think I recorded a podcast about it. If not, I'm going to have to write. I have a blog that I've been meaning to write, and I want to call it the 5-word question that ended my tech career. Make sure you're subscribed to my Substack. I've been really pouring my heart and soul into my writing. My writing's always been my preferred form of therapy. And I also love the concept of turning not just your pain into art, but turning it into purpose. And using the experiences that you've had to help someone else who might be currently facing them. But I look at this time now, and I have no shame. I would rather live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and create a life of purpose than live in New York and have a job I don't want. And I don't judge myself for how long it's taken things to unfold, because I'm in it for the long haul, baby. I will keep showing up because I care a lot. I care so much. I care so much, and I will never stop showing up. And I don't care if I have to cat sit in Philadelphia to get away. I actually have a really exciting adventure that I'm embarking on pretty soon. I don't want to share the details too soon, but make sure you're subscribed to my Substack and make sure you're following along on Instagram, because this is going to be one of the most exciting things I've ever done. it's something that I never would have chosen for myself, and it's something that the universe has placed on my path that I just feel really fortunate and excited about. I guess just touch back on all this, how like I listened to the episode, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. This is something that other people are actively experiencing. This is something that people are actively listening to. I was really fidgety on the episode, so let's like touch on this again, but maybe do like a little bit of an updated version. And I just wanted to show some love to that past version of myself who wasn't ready to be showing up, who didn't love herself enough to know better, who had no way of knowing better, who was doing the absolute best that she could with what she had and decided it was enough. I just know there's going to be a version of me in the future who looks back and is like, you go, girl, like, I love you. That's been a huge part of my healing journey, is I don't look back on any of the past versions of myself and feel anything other than love. I don't judge them. I don't wish they would have made different choices. I just believe that life's meant to be experienced, and my ego can have ideas of if we never left, if we never did this, if we never did that. But that's not what my soul came here for. My soul came to bring this mission forward. This is my purpose. This is my path. This is why I'm here. And sometimes it can feel a little vulnerable to share this when I'm first meeting people. But I forgot how important this story is. And I also forgot the fact that when you open up to people, you give them the chance to receive you. And you're often met with someone's own vulnerability. It felt really important to share this today. So, not our usual dating programming that I share, but I hope that this resonated for you. And if it does, please feel free, send me a DM, reach out to me, share this episode if you resonated. Like, this is important stuff and it needs to be talked about. And at the very least, I hope that I just gave you permission to kind of let go of something. So, I love you.